The Tesla revolution, unveiling the future of tablets with the Starlink Pi.
There's a new name on everyone's lips, and it's not Apple or Samsung. Imagine holding a device that works wherever you go, charges itself in sunlight, and costs less than a family dinner. That future is here, and it's called the Tesla Starlink Pi Tablet. The tech world isn't ready for what Elon Musk is launching, but the countdown has started. Is this the moment the Apple dynasty ends, or is it just another hype storm? Let's break down the launch that's got the world talking. The day Apple lost control. There are moments in the tech world when you can feel the ground shift under your feet. It does not happen often. Decades might pass before the rules change, before the biggest names in the industry realize they are suddenly no longer in charge. But if you had stepped into any electronics store in early 2025, you would have witnessed something that nobody predicted. The day the Tesla Starlink Pi Tablet went on sale is already being called the moment Apple finally lost its grip on what we thought was possible. The world was used to new launches. Apple and Samsung had trained everyone to expect the annual reveal of something a little faster, a little sleeker, maybe a little thinner, and always a lot more expensive. These were not just gadgets. They were status symbols, almost like a designer bag for your pocket or briefcase. The logic was simple. If you wanted the best, you had to pay for it, and pay dearly. But everything changed in a single morning. People walked into their local tech shops and found themselves staring at a price tag that looked like a misprint, where the iPad Pro sat on its glass pedestal at $1,300, and the Galaxy Tab Ultra smirked from behind a tag of $1,200. There was a new player with a tiny price that seemed to defy every law of modern business: $119.
All for just $119. But more new discounts are coming that you cannot believe.
That was not a typo. It was the Tesla Starlink Pi Tablet, and it instantly became the talk of every coffee shop, group chat, and tech forum around the world. People were not just talking about a new device. They were wondering if the entire game had been changed in one move. It would have been easy for Tesla to release another expensive toy. The world already expects Elon Musk to drop something futuristic every few years, but this was not just about showing off. This was about breaking the whole system and putting advanced technology into the hands of people who had never even dreamed they could afford it. Overnight, the myth that you had to spend a fortune to own great tech was shattered. The Pi Tablet was not only affordable, it was built with the kind of features that made people think twice about ever spending top dollar on a tablet again. There was no catch hidden in fine print. You could pre-order it without paying a single cent. Zero deposit. No tricks. Just sign up and you only pay when it ships in November. If you needed more than one, Tesla's double tablet deal was staring you in the face. Buy one for $119, get a second for $59. 2 brand new flagship tablets in your bag for less than the price of a single entry-level iPad. The industry had never seen anything so bold, and Apple executives must have felt the walls closing in. But the price was just the first shot across the bow. What really set the Pi Tablet apart was its purpose. Elon Musk was not simply making another gadget to crowd your desk. He was making a statement. The device came with Starlink built in. Suddenly, all the headaches people lived with: spotty Wi-Fi, expensive cellular plans, endless searching for public connections, were obsolete. You could be anywhere in the world and still be connected to the fastest satellite network available. Imagine living in a remote mountain cabin, backpacking through the Rockies, or taking a long road trip through America's forgotten towns. The Tesla Pi Tablet kept you online with nothing but the open sky above you. No more worrying about SIM cards, no more pleading with your phone to become a hotspot, and absolutely no monthly bills that keep climbing higher every year. If you think this is just a story for travelers or digital nomads, think again. Tesla did not stop there. For buyers in select cities like New York, the package included a solar charging case at no extra cost. This was not a marketing stunt. You could leave your tablet out in the sun for just an hour and refill 30% of the battery. It meant you could keep working, streaming, or exploring without ever plugging in. There was something magical about that idea. You're not just buying a tablet, You are buying true freedom, and no other competitor in the world could match it, not even close. Tesla's focus on rewarding loyalty was just as aggressive. If you already drove a Tesla, you suddenly qualified for an even deeper discount, $89 for the entire Pi tablet. No other company had ever given their longtime supporters such a gift. Apple might throw in a free month of music streaming or a shiny sticker, but Musk was offering a full-powered flagship device for the price of a few takeout dinners. He was not just selling tech, he was building an ecosystem, inviting you to make Tesla part of every aspect of your daily life, from the road to your desk and now right into your backpack. But Elon Musk was not done. In a move that stunned the industry, Tesla announced the Starlink swap program. If you had an old Starlink dish, you could bring it in and get a Pi tablet free. Tesla called it sustainability. Others saw it as a brilliant way to reward early adopters and kick competitors to the curb. Musk was not content to rest on his company's achievements. He wanted every customer to feel like a VIP, no matter when they joined the revolution. As the months ticked by and the holidays drew closer, Tesla poured gasoline on the fire. Place your order by December 1st, and you would get a smart stylus and a solar charging case bundled in, a $150 value, free. Apple fans winced when they realized they pay nearly $130 just for a pencil, while Tesla customers walked away with a tablet, accessories, and a new future, all in one box. The message was clear. The rules had changed, and the old guard was not ready for what came next. Then came the savings no one could argue with. Most people spend $720 a year on data plans. Starlink's annual renewal? Just $120. That is $600 saved every single year, or $1,800 in your pocket over 3 years. With Tesla tossing in a $99 Starlink subscription bonus, your real savings hit $1,899. If you do the math, the Pi tablet could pay for itself more than 15 times just by switching away from old-school cellular plans. The longer you looked, the more it felt like Apple and Samsung had been taking people for a ride all along. It would be easy to say this is all clever marketing, but for millions, the numbers speak louder than any commercial. When was the last time you saw a game-changing device at a price that made sense for everyone, not just the well-off or tech-obsessed? For families trying to stretch every dollar, for students who never thought they could afford premium tech, and for small businesses trying to stay competitive without blowing the budget, this was not just news, it was hope. Suddenly, people who felt priced out of the digital world had a real seat at the table. That is why the story of the Pi tablet's debut is more than just a tech headline. It is the story of a market flipping upside down, of a future where a single company can put advanced technology into the hands of everyone. Apple and Samsung are facing something they never imagined: real, affordable competition at a scale they cannot match. But the biggest question still hangs in the air. Can Tesla deliver on the hype, or is there a catch waiting to jump out once the excitement fades? And what does this mean for the future of connectivity, freedom, and innovation when the old rules have been shattered overnight? If you think this is where the surprises end, wait until you see what Starlink on the Pi tablet is really capable of. The signal that changes everything. At first glance, the word Starlink might seem like just another brand name. For years, people have scrolled past headlines about SpaceX satellites and gigabit internet promises, thinking it was all a science project meant for people with money to burn or survivalists living off the grid. That could not be further from the truth anymore. In 2025, Starlink is no longer a tech demo for Elon Musk's side hustle. It is a new backbone for the entire digital world. When Tesla decided to bake Starlink connectivity into every Pi tablet, they did not just toss in a bonus feature. They fundamentally rewired what a connected device means, especially for the people left behind by traditional internet. Suddenly, a tablet was not just another screen. It was a direct line to the future, no matter where you stood on the planet. Think about it. By the first quarter of 2025, Starlink's network had grown into an armada of nearly 7,000 satellites, blanketing 98% of the world's surface with a web of connectivity that most people never dreamed possible. Before this, every big company, Apple, Samsung, even Google, had to play by the rules set by cellular networks and broadband monopolies. That meant huge swaths of rural America, the Australian outback, mountain villages in Peru, and entire islands in the Pacific were all but invisible to high-speed internet. For them, the digital revolution was a promise never fulfilled, a constant reminder that not all progress is shared equally. In the United States alone, more than 14 million homes in rural communities had little or no access to reliable broadband. It was the modern equivalent of being left in the dark. But in a single move, the Pi Tablet shattered those boundaries. You did not need a cell tower, a fiber line, or even a city nearby. You only needed sky. With Starlink's satellite coverage, that tablet became your passport to a world that had ignored you for decades. Suddenly, the farmer in Kansas, the teacher in rural Alaska, and the backpacker deep in Patagonia all had the same internet as anyone sitting in a luxury Manhattan high-rise. If you ever thought of internet as a luxury, now it was a right, delivered through a thin, solar-charged screen. The difference goes beyond travel and geography. The story of the Pi Tablet and Starlink is a story of resilience. In the past, disasters could knock entire regions offline with a single hurricane or wildfire. When the winds of Hurricane Ian roared through Florida in 2022, traditional cell towers toppled and broadband cables snapped, leaving tens of thousands stranded and out of touch. But over 10,000 Starlink terminals kept communities online, connecting them to rescue teams, emergency alerts, and the rest of the world. This was not theory or marketing, it was survival, proven on the ground in the worst moments. For the first time, there was an internet that could not be silenced by the weather or the whims of infrastructure. Now, Tesla's Pi Tablet brings that level of security and stability directly into people's hands. When the power is out, when roads are blocked, and when hope feels far away, the Pi Tablet is a lifeline. No matter what disaster strikes, it is there, steady, powered by sunlight, pulling down messages from a sky full of satellites. In many ways, it is the end of isolation. This is a tool for families who live in Tornado Alley, for firefighters heading into the wildlands, and for kids in underfunded rural schools who never had a fighting chance before. The world is not static, and neither is Starlink. By 2027, the network is scheduled to double in size, expanding to 12,000 satellites and pushing speeds up to 1 gigabit per second, fiber optic speeds, but without a single cable dug into the ground. At that point, the gap between cities and rural areas is erased, and nobody can claim that location is destiny. Everyone is connected, everywhere, all the time. It is the start of a new age, one where even the smallest village can participate in the global economy, education, and culture. The Pi Tablet is not just catching people up to the present, it is catapulting them into a future that was supposed to be reserved for a lucky few. There's also the promise of something even more audacious. Tesla has already begun working with T-Mobile to pioneer direct satellite-to-device calls and texts.
T-Mobile has teamed up with SpaceX's Starlink satellites to offer satellite-based mobile service.
That means, in the very near future, your Pi Tablet will not just be a window to the internet. It will be a phone that works anywhere on Earth, a communication tool that cannot be blocked by bureaucracy, border, or blackout. The world is shrinking, not because companies are selling smaller screens, but because they are finally erasing the invisible lines that separated the privileged from the forgotten. For millions, the impact is both practical and emotional. In places where war, poverty, or disaster make connection impossible, the Pi Tablet is a symbol of hope. It is the first time some children will attend a virtual classroom, the first time grandparents can video call their family across an ocean, and the first time a young entrepreneur in Africa can sell her products to someone in Paris or New York. The world feels closer, kinder, and more full of opportunity. This is not marketing. It is liberation, and it is happening right now. Of course, not everyone believes the hype at first. Critics wonder if satellite internet can ever be as stable as fiber or 5G, or if Tesla can actually deliver to millions without bottlenecks or data slowdowns. But every month, the doubters are silenced by real numbers and real stories. Testers from mountain towns and distant islands report connections that hold strong in places where other signals have never reached. Reviews from field hospitals, disaster zones, and remote work crews tell the same story. The Pi Tablet is not a theory, it is a tool, and every day its value grows as more satellites join the constellation and more users find their digital voice. It would be a mistake to overlook the psychological effect as well. For decades, the world has been divided into those who have access and those who do not. Teachers struggle to keep students engaged when only half the class can get online. Small businesses cannot compete when they are tied to unreliable connections. Seniors are isolated by geography and infrastructure. The Pi Tablet slices through that wall and puts everyone on equal footing. It is a new kind of equality, not delivered by policy or government spending, but by the open sky and a company willing to bet everything on the power of technology to change lives. All of this comes at a fraction of the cost people are used to paying. Starlink's annual subscription undercuts traditional cellular data plans by hundreds of dollars a year. For families scraping by, for students working late shifts, and for workers in developing economies, this is not just a bargain, it is a miracle. Suddenly, the best connection in the world is not the privilege of the rich, it is the new normal. As you watch this, think about what happens next. If every device can be connected anywhere, if cost is no longer a barrier, and if freedom from contracts is finally possible, who gets left behind? Or do we finally reach a point where nobody is excluded, and the promise of the digital revolution is finally fulfilled? When free really means free. If you spent years watching companies dangle the word free like bait, you have every right to be suspicious. The fine print always ruined the dream. Sign a contract, get locked into a bundle, fill out forms, or pay hidden fees that felt like a tax on optimism. By 2025, most tech buyers had seen it all and built up armor against deals that promised the world and delivered little more than a gift card. So when word began to spread that Tesla was handing out Pi tablets for nothing, skepticism was the first reaction. Social media filled up with jokes, memes, and 1,000 variations of "what's the catch?" But as the details became public and people started getting their devices without so much as a credit card swipe, a new kind of excitement took over. A hope that maybe, just this once, free could actually mean free. Tesla's strategy was simple on paper, but revolutionary in its effect. The centerpiece was the referral program. You did not need to be a marketing genius or have a massive following. Just 5 friends or family members interested in the Pi tablet meant you could wipe out the full cost. Each referral brought a credit, and when you hit 5, the $119 disappeared completely. No complicated hoops, no ongoing subscription, just a simple, community-driven approach that felt almost old-fashioned in a world obsessed with digital tracking and endless upcharges. If you already owned a Tesla vehicle, the rewards multiplied. Every referral brought in $10, so a dozen friends in your circle meant the tablet was not just discounted, it was entirely yours, courtesy of your own network. For some, even those simple social connections felt like too much to ask. Not everyone wants to play the role of influencer, even for a prize this good. Tesla planned for that too. In the country's largest cities, the trade-in option was there to make the deal almost impossible to resist. New York, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Chicago became testing grounds for a trade-in scheme so generous it made other buyback programs look embarrassing by comparison. If you owned any tablet from as far back as 2018, Tesla would instantly credit you with a value, often between $20 and $50. That meant you could walk in with an old, scratched-up device and walk out with a Pi tablet for as little as $69 or $99. Stack that with a couple of referrals, and the price dropped to zero. It was the sort of loophole you almost expected a lawyer to close within days, but instead, Tesla doubled down and encouraged more people to try their luck. The domino effect was impossible to ignore. Videos started popping up online, showing people trading in battered tablets that would have earned only a few pennies at a pawn shop and walking away with brand new Teslas in their backpacks. Word of mouth did what no advertising campaign could do. Suddenly, Lines began forming outside Tesla stores in places that had never seen this kind of excitement for a tech release. Local news crews showed up thinking they would cover a typical product launch and ended up running stories about entire families upgrading their tech for almost nothing. But the free deals did not stop at city borders or with tech-savvy early adopters. Tesla understood that access to technology is about more than just who knows the right people or lives in the right place. That is why they quietly rolled out partnerships for veterans, seniors, and low-income households that made the Pi Tablet available at absolutely no cost. For veterans, first responders, and seniors receiving government benefits, the offer was clear. Show your proof, and the tablet is yours. For families earning less than $25,000 a year, the process was just as easy. No endless paperwork, no waiting lists that last months. Just show up, qualify, and claim your future. In an age where the digital divide had only grown wider, these programs hit like a lightning bolt. Community centers became the front lines of a new kind of tech revolution. Kids from working-class neighborhoods were able to take home a Pi tablet for schoolwork, creative projects, or just to feel like they were not being left behind in a world where everyone seemed to have a screen in their hands. For grandparents, many of whom had watched technology pass them by, the Pi tablet became a lifeline. No more isolation. Now they could video call their grandchildren, join virtual doctor visits, or simply explore the world at their own pace. No bill to dread at the end of the month. Tesla's generosity was not just charity, it was a bet on the power of scale. Every free device handed out was an invitation to join the Starlink ecosystem, to build loyalty in places where other brands had given up. For every 10 tablets in the hands of families, there was one more reason for neighbors to consider making the switch, and one more reason for businesses and schools to get on board. Even those who paid full price felt like they were part of a movement, not just a transaction. Some analysts scratched their heads and wondered how Tesla could possibly sustain a business model that put so many free devices in circulation. The answer, it turned out, was simple. Tesla understood that connectivity itself is the new currency. Every person who owned a Pi tablet would eventually need access to Starlink's internet services, accessories, and software upgrades. By lowering the cost of entry to zero for so many, Tesla was not losing money. It was building a foundation that could last for decades. It was a strategy borrowed from the world's greatest tech giants, but turbocharged for a new age. Give away the razor and sell the blades. Only in this case, the blades were global, always-on connectivity, and they came with none of the usual pain points of old-school contracts or surprise fees. All of this led to stories that went beyond the spreadsheets. In rural Mississippi, a school district pooled its trade-in devices and referral credits, outfitting every student with a Pi tablet for the full semester. On a Navajo reservation in Arizona, elders who had never touched a computer before were suddenly attending virtual language classes and sharing videos with relatives across the country.
Deal volunteers to teach a coding course. However, with her class being virtual, just showing up can be challenging.
In New York, a community group for seniors threw a tablet day that felt more like a party than a tech rollout, with volunteers helping everyone set up their devices and start exploring the web. It was not perfect, and not every application went smoothly. There were times when demand overwhelmed supply, and when scammers tried to game the system. But the core truth remained. This was the first time a company made good on the promise of putting advanced technology in the hands of anyone who wanted it, no matter their circumstances. Tesla's outreach became a model for how tech could be both profitable and ethical, driving real change instead of just profits. As the months rolled on, more and more people started to realize that this was not a publicity stunt or a flash-in-the-pan marketing gimmick. It was the start of a new standard, one where free could mean free, and where nobody had to watch from the sidelines. For families, students, elders, and everyone in between, the Pi tablet was not just a device. It was a symbol of possibility, a window into a world that was finally opening up. And the question on everyone's mind became bigger than price or features. If Tesla could make this happen, what else might be possible? How would the company handle production and distribution as the world clamored for more, and could they really keep up with demand on a global scale? how the Pi Tablet will flood the world. By the summer of 2025, it was clear that Tesla was not simply launching a gadget. The Pi Tablet was a signal flare for a new era, and what happened behind the scenes was as revolutionary as the device itself. While traditional tech companies were stuck navigating endless supply chain delays and outsourcing production across a maze of third-party factories, Tesla did something almost no one saw coming. It took complete control. From the first sketch to the last box shipped, the Pi Tablet was the product of Tesla's own vast network of gigafactories. This vertical integration was not just a business flex, it was the secret weapon that made the impossible price and wild availability real. Inside Giga Texas, robots worked with a rhythm that seemed closer to music than machinery. With 60% automation, every 15 seconds a finished Pi Tablet emerged, destined for a classroom, a family, or a remote village where connected had never meant much before. Similar scenes played out at Giga Nevada, Berlin, and Shanghai. Each facility ramped up its own slice of the production pie, ensuring that shortages and bottlenecks were the problems of the past, not the future. No more waiting for cargo ships to cross oceans, no more delays while suppliers negotiated contracts, and no more corners cut just to hit a quarterly goal. Quality and speed were suddenly partners, not enemies. But the revolution did not end at the factory gates. Tesla's direct-to-consumer sales model cut out layers of distributors, retailers, and middlemen. This meant that customers around the world received the same Pi Tablet, loaded with Starlink connectivity for the same honest price. Whether you lived in Texas or Thailand, your device arrived quickly, worked immediately, and came backed by the same promise of support and upgrades. In the background, Starlink's constellation of satellites kept growing, adding coverage and capacity with every passing month. The whole world was watching as a single company rewrote the playbook for technology at scale. Even competitors were forced to pay attention. Apple and Samsung found themselves trapped by legacy supply chains and old habits. No amount of advertising could mask the fact that, while their tablets grew more expensive and more complicated, Tesla's Pi Tablet was everywhere, in everyone's hands, and still cost less than a weekend out. The gap between what was promised and what was delivered had never felt so obvious. Tesla's pace did not slow. By the end of 2025, millions of Pi Tablets had shipped, with plans to more than double production in the following year. The company was not just setting the agenda for the industry, it was leaving the old guard, scrambling to catch up. For everyday people, this meant something bigger than a new device. This was the first time a global technology movement was not about luxury or exclusivity. It was about real, practical change that everyone could see and touch. In towns where technology had always been an afterthought, the Pi Tablet arrived as a symbol of inclusion and opportunity. It puts learning, work, and creativity within reach. It made families safer and businesses more connected. Even the skeptics found themselves wondering if this was what the future was supposed to feel like: equal, open, and bright. The world had seen companies promise disruption before, but with every new Pi Tablet in someone's hands, it became clear that this was not just hype, it was history in the making. The question now is not whether Tesla can keep up, but how far they can go. As factories keep humming, satellites keep circling, and more people wake up to the new reality, you have to ask, what will Apple and Samsung do next? Is the era of overpriced exclusive tech finally over? Or is this just the beginning of a race that no one predicted, led by a company that always does the unthinkable? The revolution has a new face, and it is not the one anyone expected. Whether you are a skeptic, a die-hard fan, or someone just tired of paying too much for too little, the Tesla Starlink Pi Tablet is a challenge to everything we thought was possible. Will you grab the future while it is still within reach, or watch as the world passes by? Drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for the next big story, and remember, sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest price tag. The legacy of Apple may be ending, but the next chapter in tech is only just beginning.